I want to talk to you about my friend Charlie Crawford. He's a 10-time NFR qualifier.
Charlie Crawford, time to just shake it out and win. Got it on him fast, set
there
up.
We are.
Here's a day
nice
money
run.
lead. You betcha 3-8.
That's an absolute perfect run. Timing was perfect from the time the first swing is up. He's got the control. Charlie made it happen by being timed up with his horse with the steer, and being able to not just rope, but to pick that steer's head up without changing the momentum for the heeler at all.
We know his beautiful wife, Jackie, all three of their beautiful children, the founder of the Liberty and Loyalty Foundation, which this year will exceed $1 million raised for military and first responders. I've said it 1,000 times. Charlie, it's time to rope, nod and ride, whip and spur. I want to welcome you to the Charlie Crawford Podcast. Let's ride.
When your head horse is stepping out. So there's about 3 different things that a head horse has a tendency to do in the corner. And what I mean by in the corner is, so like when you rope the steer, dally, those horses have about 3 different tendencies that they can do. One would be to get strong. And what I mean by strong is like when you rope them and you go to pull and slow down and they get strong and like almost go past the steer or keep going down the arena. Or what can happen is when you rope and dally, those steers can get to where they start stepping out on you and shouldering out. And a lot of that can be, if you use that big move where you stick and cross and use your right leg to make your horse go left. And what that does, it almost enhances his ribs and his shoulders to go left and go through your left leg, but then your left hand's turning to the right, and so your right leg shoving them shoulders out where they learn how to start leaning on that steer, and they can get strong that way. Or your horse can load up. And what I mean by loading up is like when you go to rope and you pull your slack and they start getting their butt and dropping down and like almost stopping in a way. They load up, get strong that way where you're actually constantly trying to kick them out of it. All 3 of those things can create wave offs. Waves off is a tough ingredient to try to figure out the recipe because there's so many different things that can create a wave off, and those 3 things are definitely 3 of them that can create it. And so a horse that wants to get strong after you rope, your horse wants to get strong after you rope. And so you can do a couple different things. And so on all these different training techniques, what I'll do is I'll keep a set of steers in my roping pen that say the steers are still really good to head, but maybe they drag, or maybe they run the rope, maybe they suck to heel, but they're still really good to head. I'll use this training technique on those steers. That way I keep a set of steers that every single one of those steers is earning their feed. I don't keep steers in my herd just to score. I'm going to keep them to where they're all designed for a purpose. And so these steers that want to maybe run the rope or drag, but they're still good to head, I'll use them for these training techniques here. And so if I have one that's wanting to get strong, so as soon as I rope and dally, he's wanting to like almost go past the steer, get strong in my hand, and go down the pin, I'll either get a breakaway rope, or if my heeler needs to slow his heel horse down, I'll get a regular rope and I'll run up there a rope and just stop my horse. Back up, undally. If I want to keep it light, or if I'm roping by myself, I can use a breakaway rope, run up there, rope, dally, and just stop. And so when I stop, I want to make sure that my stopping posture is also correct. And so when I rope the steer's horns, pull my slack, dally, and when I go to sit down, I want my shoulders to go down to my hips and get my feet in front of me. That way it's a cue to be able to slow down. And I'll do that technique first before I get into his face. And it's also important, too, to make sure you don't lose your cool when you're doing this. Because I've made that mistake before to where I'm like, all right, now you gotcha. And then as soon as they get strong, like you jerk on them, or you get real strong-handed and like, draw them back. Well, if you're not careful when you do that, you can get a horse to quit trusting your left hand, and that can also make them stronger, because then they're starting to panic because they're scared of your hand. They're scared of when you're going to, pull on them and overdo it. So you want to make it just to where when you rope dally, you sit shoulders down to your hips, feet in front of you, and then pick up on the reins. And then if they go through your hand there, try to sit down more, maybe pop them, but then give them their head back to where they start slowing down and getting in the ground. You do that enough times, and usually they'll start reading it. Because what you're wanting to do is you're wanting to make sure when you rope, they'll come down off you a little bit to where you can manage the speed and direction you want and to be able to control that corner. A rodeo smart horse, you're going to want to be able to have your heeler with you, even if you're breakaway or if you're just trying to stop the steer, because they'll know the difference. And on all three of these techniques too, make sure you're trying to rope like you're trying to rope for money. I've made the mistake of like when I go to train, like I'll swing like I'm training my horse and I'll ease on up there and rope, and they know the difference. So make sure that you're seeing the same start as you would at a roping or a jackpot. You're running up there roping like you would at a rodeo or a jackpot. That way they don't know the difference. And then that way when you put it on the horn, shoulders down to your hips, feet in front, and go ahead and stop your horse. Get him where you start getting that leg under him and starts thinking about checking down right there where you have more control in that corner. Now, if that doesn't help, something that you want to look into is if that horse ain't had his teeth done in a while. I get my horse's teeth done every year. And that way I want to make sure I check off all the things also that may be also a contributing factor, because I don't want to be getting on my horse if that horse is hurting somewhere or if he's sore somewhere. So getting his hocks looked at, getting his stifles looked at, if trying to stop, like you can tell like he's dreading it, maybe get those three things looked at just to make sure you check him off the box where he's not also getting sore. Now a horse that wants to shoulder out or step out to the left. This is really enhanced if you stick and cross, like the big move, the side pass move where the horse leads with his left hip out. Man, those are hard moves to make. They're really, really hard moves to keep your horse working because they want to anticipate going left. And I've been started this way. This is how rodeoing was back then. This is how the corner was back then, stick and cross and big move and, all that stuff. Oh, man, it's so hard to doctor. It's so hard to keep a horse working that way. That's one of the hardest transitions it took for me when I started futurity and at the end of my career was learn how to redevelop my corner so my horses worked better and it wasn't harder on them, and it's also faster on more steers, especially fresher steers. And so if they're wanting to shoulder out, what I'll do is I'll rope, dally, and then I'll rotate my hand a little bit to the inside and let my horse step to the left with his shoulders. But then I'm trying to straighten his rib cage and his hips underneath of me so my horse stays between my reins and between my legs. And then I'll step him out about 45 degrees, and if he gets strong there, that's where I'll stop him. And then just let him relax. And then move that shoulder after he relaxes, then you stop. Give him 30 seconds. Then I'll make that horse move off my left leg, off my left rein, back on over. If you miss, this is also a great way to, if you miss, dally, step your horse out. If he gets strong, pick him back up, stop, and turn to the right. Go the opposite way of whatever way he's wanting to lean. Because that big move, what it ends up doing is it teaches them horse to almost lean on the steer for balance. That's why you see some of them guys that wave it off and they rope one horn and dally, and the horse almost falls down because he learns to lean on that steer. So it's a hard move to doctor. I like them where they get their butt up underneath of them, get that left leg under them, and then I can direct their shoulders right there to handle the steers. And I can basically hook the truck up to the trailer where I can handle that steer. That's the kind of move I'm looking for. And so be able to kind of redevelop that corner. This is a good technique and way to be able to do it where the horse goes around your left leg and not through your left leg. And then the loading up. Loading up is almost like, say, you're roping on almost what it feels like a breakaway horse or a calf horse. As soon as you rope, they just start loading up, like getting their butt up underneath of them, and then you're almost having to kick them out of it to handle the steer. This is the type of steer. This one's pretty easy. Like, this is the one I'll use, especially the one that maybe wants to run the rope, or the steer even wants to drag. I'll run up there and rope for real, dally, and just follow the steer to the back. Even if the steer goes to the left, like kind of wants to roll, just keep on moving out away from the steer. Keep staying in your lane, and then just follow that steer all the way to the back end of the strip and shoot. You can maybe get it tight, let him feel the pressure, and then come back on in. Same with the steer that wants to like shoulder out, rope, get it tight, because what they do is they feel that pressure, and they're wanting you to load up or step out. So get to where they can feel that pressure, but then stay with the steer. And then always, as soon as I stop, I'll turn to the right, especially if you catch a lot. Because if you catch a lot, that horse is used to going left. Well, people and horses are all the same. They're a creature of habit. And so if you catch a lot, they're going to used to be as soon as you catch, go left. So if you miss, utilize that as best you can and then turn the opposite way. That way you can get the most out of your practice and the most out of catches and misses, because that control in the corner is what's going to set up the handle, and that you're going to need them feet back there to be caught.